pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the next item on our agenda is approval of minutes. Oh, I don't have a separate. Better take minutes. Okay. So Kathy's not here yet. Brian, you move adoption of the minutes, approval of the minutes? Is there a second?
Second.
By Fred? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. For the agenda, I wanted to add one item under new business, letter D. It'll be a reappointment of the town building official. Every 4 years, we reappoint or appoint a building official. And Lincoln White is our official, and I am proposing that we reappoint him for the next 4 years. So with that one change, and there will not be any executive session tonight, we will remove that as well. So with those two changes, is there a motion to approve? Brian, seconded by Carl. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Tonight, we are down one board of selectmen. Mark Finkelstein has resigned, unfortunately, from the Board of Selectmen, and he has provided a letter to the selectmen, which I'm going to read. It's a very nice letter. Did you open yours?
I did not, but you can have it.
I'll let you read.
It's like a gift. Award.
And it's addressed to Mrs. Dillon. Dear Bernadette Dillon, the purpose of this letter is to advise you of my resignation as a selectman for the town of Portland, effective immediately. This decision has not been entered into lightly, but only after considerable deliberation. I have enjoyed my years on the board, and most especially, the most recent years. I believe that the selectmen work in harmony for the best interests of our beloved town, and I have no doubt that they will continue to do so. When first elected to the board, one of my goals was to establish a harmonious working relationship where we could conduct the business of the town without regard to personal agendas or political affiliations. Thanks to all of the selectmen, that condition now exists. I am very grateful to the voters in Portland for electing me to this position for so many years, and I have strived to represent their interests to the best of my ability. The town is fortunate to be represented by the current board, and especially being led by Susan Bransfield, who has always made certain that we were well prepared for every meeting. I wish them all the very best. Most sincerely, Mark J. Finkelstein. And in honor of Mark, who couldn't be here tonight because he has a work commitment, I issued a proclamation today. And I'm going to read it. May it be known, this proclamation is presented by the Board of Selectmen to honor Mark J. Finkelstein for the outstanding time, effort, and work he has accomplished as a member of the Board of Selectmen, having served 6 terms, beginning by filling a vacancy on the board in December 2002, and then being elected in 2003, and again in 2005, again 2007, again 2009, again 2011, and again in 2013. Selectman Finkelstein continued on the Board of Selectmen until his resignation on October 14, 2014. The town of Portland has greatly benefited and progressed to its present status because of Selectman Finkelstein's generous work, volunteering, and leadership. And now therefore let it be known that I, Susan Bransfield, for Selectman of the town of Portland, Connecticut, On behalf of the Board of Selectmen and the townspeople of Portland, do hereby extend sincere thanks, appreciation, and gratitude to Mark Finkelstein, and do proclaim the 15th day of October in the year 2014 as Selectman Mark Finkelstein Day in the town of Portland, Connecticut. So I guess we can clap. It's sad because Mark has been a very, very good selectman and took his job very seriously, and has been here for over a dozen years and really has done a very good job. Previously, he had been on the Board of Finance when the town had a Board of Finance, so he's very familiar with the financial management of the town, and really has assured me that he intends to continue to volunteer in other capacities. And in fact, he's been helping me with some work with the Brownstone Exploration Discovery Park. We're looking at some amendments to that agreement, and he's been working with me to come up with some needed changes to that lease. So we look forward to working with him in his new role, and really very, very grateful for all the work that he's done for the town and for me personally. He's been a very, very good selectman, and I'm gonna miss him. So, we will need to appoint a new member of our board within the next 45 days or so is what we try to do. So, it's typically a person from the same affiliation. I just hand out copies of the charter to give the selectmen a refresher on how we go about replacing someone when they leave in the middle of a term. And Kathy may join us. She did have another commitment tonight, but she was going to try to join us later. Public comment. I will allow public comment during some of the items that I know some of you may be here for tonight, so we can cover that at a later time. Old business, steep grant priorities. I know that some of you are here to talk to that. Last time, in the beginning of October, our first meeting, we had some discussions on the next steep round. And some of the items that we've talked about are recreational opportunities. We've talked about water main replacement, sewer main replacement, or changes to that, sidewalks, and so forth. One of the priorities of the steep round this year, according to Ben Barnes, who's the Secretary of Office of Policy and Management, is as we continue to recover from hard economic times and begin to prepare our towns for another New England winter, preference this year for the STEEP program will be given to projects that promote economic development, emergency preparedness, and/or infrastructure repair. So those are some of the items that, in this competitive round, they'll be looking at. Sean Dwyer wasn't able to be here last time, and he wanted to highlight some of the things in terms of the Parks and Recreation Department. So I've asked him to come and give us some information. In your packets is a handout that I believe was given to you last time by Ralph Zampano. Chris Donahue is here too.
Okay, thank you. First of all, we understand you have a tough decision. I think all the projects on there are very important, and I think when we talk about this, we understand that anytime we have any infrastructure, no matter where it is in town, it's very important. So we hope today on the park side, that you would consider us, but we also understand otherwise. Just wanted to talk real quick, was about 4 years ago, myself and Ralph, and actually Ralph made the presentation, came in front of the Board of Selectmen with four goals that we wanted to try to accomplish. One was to redo the play area basketball court. One was an infield over at Rose Hill. One was to actually just do the boundary and grading survey at Goodrich, and the fourth one was the pavilion at the riverfront. Over the last 4 years, we've been really pushing at trying to do this with some challenges, and we were able not only at Bransfield Park to get the Little League field done, but now we redid the entire horseshoe pit, as well as we now have a community garden up there. Goodrich, we are now in process in almost completing the entire engineering process, and having basically almost being ready to go out and to start work on that once we're done. The riverfront, not only do we have a pavilion, but we have now the stage. We have a fourth round of steep grants, so we're going to be getting bathrooms down there, a shelter for the stage, as well as water into the park. And also for our concert series, we had about 2,200 people in our 4 shows this year that came down there. And also we have this weekend, we have a Halloween event. And the following weekend, the Humane Society and the high school are doing a dog walk down there. So we're getting more and more programs down there. When we started talking about steep grants and which way we wanted to go and move forward, and as we're trying to do, we have basically 3 parks in town that we're seeing a lot of high-level usage, more than we typically have before. Bransfield Park, Nolan Field, and Middlesex Avenue. In your packets, I think it highlights different usage and the different groups that are using it. And the reality of trying to get some of this work done is if you start doing the projects, it's going to cost some money. And we found that right now, probably the best opportunity for us to get these projects done is through steep grant. They have been very good to the parks around the state. They've been very good for the parks in town here. And a lot of this isn't short fixed money we need. And to be able to get a steep grant to go in and do a lot of work around and inside the parks would be a big step forward. The other thing we're seeing with all 3 of those parks is not just usage with Portland residents, but we're also seeing people from out of town coming in, and mostly they're playing against other teams from Portland, but they're coming in and they're using our parks, they're seeing our parks, and to keep them in good standard is, obviously the safety, but it is also, it's nice when other people in town come and they see your park. Our football program, when they run 4 games, they're bringing in a couple hundred people from out of town. Soccer and baseball this year, the junior team held 2 rounds of district play where the Middlesex County, where they were coming and they were playing up at Bransfield Park. So we're getting a lot of usage, a lot of visibility to our parks, and we felt that the steep grant would be an opportunity to get this work done. What we think after talking is our major focus point would be more the Middlesex Avenue, because there is so much work that needs to be done down there. It's going to cost us some money. We basically have gone through 3 stages of this in the last probably 18 months. About 18 months ago, I walked the property with Carl Johnson and Chris Donahue. And one of the issues that Portland Soccer has is right now they don't currently have a home. They're constantly being bounced from site to site. And we looked at some opportunities to kind of give soccer a home base. The other thing we looked at is aesthetics of the park. What can we do to improve the park? And on the third thing is how can we help the turf and to be able to maintain it. Carl and actually Chris really came up with a lot of the ideas, and it really looked like, wow, this project is something we can do. It's not going to cost a lot of money. It's going to cost some money, but it's something that's a reality we can make happen. Then we had another phase to the project, which we don't need to get into today, but I'm just kind of let you know that what we've been thinking about is we started thinking about what would happen if we made it a baseball complex, what would happen if we changed it up, made it a little higher level soccer and baseball complex, a football complex. And Joe Balskis has been fantastic over the last 3 years, giving us his central students, the students from Central and the engineering department have given us 3 reports in what to do. So we have a couple options here. But the one in front of you is basically the one that we did in May, the walkthrough, because the reality is we started looking at dollars and what we can get done. And I think with a steep grant, we can get a lot of the work done at Middlesex Avenue. The other thing, too, with Middlesex Avenue with the steep grant is it could be considered, I would think, and Susan, I could be wrong on this, but a continuation of the progress that the steep grants have done in the riverfront area. That is our gateway. When I'm parking cars during the concerts, there's a ton of out-of-state license plates there. And if you take a drive down Middlesex Avenue and take a look at the fencing, the buildings, that is what a lot of people are seeing as they drive down Middlesex Avenue. So, in the opportunity of getting the grant, I'm hoping that is something that we can, the state would consider, is that this is helping us with our gateway into the riverfront. The second thing is, which I brought up before, is when football and soccer do play there, we are bringing other people from the community into town. You know, you talk about economic development. I get phone calls or emails from friends of mine. Hey, we're coming to play football. Where's a good place to eat? Where's the place to go? So people are coming in, and what we're seeing is a park that really has had a lot of work done in the last 20 years. And last thing I said, which I mentioned before, is just that we feel like the steep is really is one of our best opportunities to get this project done. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, feel free. If anyone else wants to speak.
Fred?
No?
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to address any comments? Chris? Chris Donahue is a member of our Park and Rec Commission.
Yeah, so my name's Chris Donahue. I'm a member of the Park and Rec Commission, but I'm also the president of the Portland Soccer Club as well. Just to kind of reiterate with Sean, I mean, there's a lot of parks in our town. I think there's a lot of need for some improvements or enhancements to some of our parks. From a funding standpoint, you know, again, I don't think there's any other real funding mechanism other than the steep grants recently. From a soccer standpoint, I'll tell you, as Sean pointed out, there's no real home for soccer. We use the leased facility at Ingersoll, and right now we have about 300 kids in Portland participating in the soccer club, and I would encourage you guys, if you want, we have 2 more weeks of soccer on Saturday, come, especially on the 25th, and you'll see how we try to squeeze in so many kids in there to meet the needs of what's going on. All sports in town, as you guys have probably know, it's a full-time commitment now. It's not seasonal anymore. It seems to be, you know, we run throughout the full year, and I don't think our parks have kept up with that. So a number of the proposals are out here. I think there's some good proposals. I think some of it with irrigation that costs a lot of money. I think that helps keep the parks up and going. And I just think it's a good opportunity. As Sean pointed out, I think it is a gateway. And prior to this meeting, I heard you guys talking about trees. And I think that, you know, as part of that park thing, I think a nice line of trees going down Middlesex Avenue into the Quorum complex, I think that just enhance our park. So appreciate, I'm a taxpayer in town too, so I understand there's other infrastructure that needs work. But again, I encourage you guys to really consider using this money or trying to get this money for park improvements. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Joe?
All right, I'm Joe Balskis. I am not a member of the Park Commission. I am a past president of soccer club. And I just want to say a couple things in support with what Sean's been doing for the town. He's been doing a great job with the programs the last several years, and the things he's doing, energy he has, looking out for the clubs, looking out for the fields, him and Carl Johnson, and Chris Donahue and Ralph as well. Outstanding individuals who are out for doing things for the kids, for this town. And it's really important for, you know, obviously the soccer club itself, but just for the youth of this town. And Sean makes a good point about economic development. I mean, I'm in Dairy Queen a lot because my kids are still young too, and it's amazing how many kids are there after, you know, recreational soccer program at Ingersoll. Chris mentioned, a lot of them go there, you know, or you see them at Lily's, you know, having lunch there. So there is economic benefit to doing some improvements to the parks and the fields in the town. So I am a taxpayer as well. Been here 24 years. I'm almost a townie now, Rick. Right? Is that a townie? Being 24 years? No? Ah, darn. 50? 50 years? Okay, all right. I'm working on it. Anyways, it's I think it's very important. And you look at other towns like Portland, small towns like Portland, and investing in your parks says a lot about your town and what you mean to your town and what you mean to the youth of your town. So give us some support. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Well, you know, I agree. There's definitely a need for improvements to the parks. You've got to keep up with the use that they have. And I know I've been to a lot of the events, and I've seen the amount of work that goes into the parks. What the selectmen have to struggle with is, as you mentioned in your presentations, is balancing the needs of the town. And you may have heard, some of you were at our last meeting when we talked about the really big need that we have for some of the water mains in our town. And one in particular that's been really causing a lot of difficulty. Some of you live in the neighborhood of Spring Street, so that's on the list as well. The Airline Trail is on the list. At this point, they are in the planning stages, so I don't think that they have any need for money yet. Curb replacements, as well as parks improvements, the Route 17 new park is on the list. The sand salt storage shed, which will likely need more money, is on the list, as are such things as sewer extension, water main replacements, additions, sidewalk installation, and other types of repairs in our roads and so forth. So there's obviously not enough money for all of the needs. And what the selectmen have to determine is the prioritization of the projects for STEEP, what we think we can get funded. Some years we put in 2 grants and we prioritize them. We put in 2 applications 3 years ago, and we ended up getting the salt storage shed funded, and then the next year we put in the improvements, the last set of improvements for the riverfront park, and we were awarded that this year. So I would hope that the selectmen will contemplate how they want to prioritize, recognizing there's other perhaps sources of funding. Taxation is certainly one big area that all of you pay toward improvements in our town, as well as other grant opportunities. I have spoken to this Office of Policy and Management and pointed out that we have the new park that's going on. They don't typically like to fund improvements to parks. I think they look more, when it's a special grant, it's something that might be brand new within a park or brand new within your town. That's at least my impression of how they would fund things. So there's certainly a little bit of homework that we have here. I don't know if we're ready yet for a decision, or you want to talk about it a little bit.
I just had a question, maybe Sean might have the answer to. One of your priority was the Middlesex Avenue field. Do you have any sense of what cost that might be? The range, it's not a specific figure, but just some kind of a ballpark figure.
It would be, we ran some numbers, and, obviously the grant max is $500,000, and I don't know if we'd be able to do everything we want to do within that $500,000. There's some expensive work that needs to be done down there. So I would say we use the line baseline of $500,000.
Okay.
For the Middlesex Avenue.
Middlesex Avenue.
I'm sorry, Shirley?
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
My property abuts Eglati Field. And on Eglati Field, there is football play, there is soccer play. Thanks to Sean over the years, there's been a lot of improvement in relation to kids jumping the town's fence onto my property. And I have notified my insurance carrier that the town has to advise the insurance company that there is a problem there, because I don't intend to pay the bill if someone gets hurt. But I understand there's a need for a fence back there also. In addition, we've had some other incidents there that Sean has taken care of. Regardless whether the steep grant goes through or not, there needs to be something done to that boundary line that specifically abuts Eglati Field. I actually, during the first football game this season, I actually called the town police.
Can they ask why?
When you have cat growling in relation to what's going on the field behind you, that's a problem.
Brian had a question, Shirley.
That's okay.
Oh, okay.
You're not gonna ask if I'm,
Why did you call the police? What was the issue?
there were children, unsupervised children, running all over everywhere. And it was just total chaos there that day. And,
Sean,
Second.
maybe I've seen this. Have these improvements been priced out in any way somewhere, or?
We've been working on a lot of items, just to give you an idea, I basically told Fred, Middlesex Avenue could take up what the whole grant would be. We're estimating Bransfield Park at about $200,000. And a lot of it is fence work there. And then Brownstone Park, we estimated at about $107,000. Some of the other improvements that we're looking at are just some ADA upgrades, that we feel that we should be ahead of the game and not behind the game on. And-
You know what, Sean, if you're gonna talk a little bit, you could use one of these mics if you wanna sit in your chair or go
Oh,
up there. Yeah, just so that we have it on the record.
Sure, no problem.
Thanks. So if you just wanna repeat what you
Yeah, I'm just
said.
gonna plug it up here. Like I said before, we're anticipating that the Middlesex Avenue could use up pretty much what a whole grant would be, 500,000. Bransfield Park, we're estimating could be about a $205,000 project. And Brownstone Park upgrade could be at about 100,000. And again, these are all rough numbers. Some of them is again, trying to handle some of our ADA compliance. We're trying to stay ahead of the game on, that we're seeing. Fence work that can be very expensive through some of the parks. Irrigation, one of the things that we feel is kind of critical. If you go by the big field at Rose Hill right now, it looks great, and it's because it has irrigation, but the smaller field does not. Nolan Field, outfield does not, and Middlesex Avenue does not. And it's getting tougher and tougher, especially with the pest, the regulations with spraying now. It's tougher and tougher, and it's just tougher to maintain them. So the irrigation, the water will help us. And as you can see, when you look at opportunities for funding, and there's not a lot of opportunities for us to get this project done. That's why we thought Steep would be a good project for us.
Does the 500 include irrigation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we basically looked at demoing, all our fence, chain link fence, and adding either guardrail or chain link fence around the northwest and south. We looked at even doing some sort of evergreen plantings on the north side of the field. Also, I've found in some parks, they act as good barrier systems with the properties on Russell Road. There are humps all the way around Agalotti football field. The soccer field line actually goes up and over. And from what Carl had mentioned to me, that happened years ago. There was an old hump around. I think they even tried ice skating there, I believe. Yeah, so we looked at pulling back the hill and the football the multi-use field, regrading our center of Agalotti Field. It's about a 60 by 360 foot root zone mix. The center of the field takes a beating. Jeff and Chris can probably talk more about it, especially after a football soccer season in the fall. We want to clean up the north side of it, which is along Russell Road properties, and the east side. Clean the brush, irrigating both fields. Control box, wiring for irrigation, purchasing protective netting on all four sides. Right now, we only have it at the Russell side, up by where Shirley's house and the King's house are. We wanted to create a spectator ADA area in the middle of the field. Right now, what happens is our spectators are on the east side along Evergreen, so they're right along the houses. That's where all the spectators are for the football game. And Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong. The idea would be to kind of centralize the spectator area in the middle so they can either look at the football side or the soccer side. Basically pave it or put an area where if someone has a wheelchair, they can get up into the spectator area. It also is more convenient to the spectator, to the concession stand area. New bleachers, football and soccer, demo the old bleachers. We are starting to see some serious wear and tear on them. We like to try to rehab the south wall. There's a retaining wall that's along Middlesex Avenue. We had thought about doing some sort of picnic area there. That would be for the concession area. And rehab or fix up or even demo and purchase new buildings, which could bring up a cost. We have right now, there's 3 buildings. There's the concession stand storage area, which is the one along Middlesex Avenue. Then the one down along the east side near the firehouse is the Carl's basically storage area. And then football has a storage bin right there. And actually, Jeff, you guys did a nice job cleaning that area up, but there's a lot of work that still needs to be done down there. The invasives are really taking over both sides of that area. We also would like to do is remove the baseball field there and make it into more of a soccer complex. The upper area would have an 11v11 game field and an 8v8 game field and a football practice facility, and then obviously the down would be the football field / soccer field. And then we also want to put some money in for engineering because we find that we do a lot of these projects where they bring a contractor in. It's good to be able to have some money to have an engineer to come in and give us a spec and a plan. So that's kind of the outline that we have right now. So,
That's good. It's very helpful.
okay. Right, that's it.
Good job. Thank you,
Okay, thank you.
everyone.
Let me just show you real quick, just pull it up. This is the fields. That's after, after one season.
Okay, yes, it shows the wear. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You see the,
Yeah.
that's right.
It's very helpful. How do you want to proceed?
Rick?
Rick?
I'd like to just make
Sure.
a brief comment. Just to keep things a little bit in perspective. The last 4 steep applications that were prioritized by the board were in order. Riverfront Park 4, which is a park-related activity. Nelson Goodrich Engineering, which is a park-related activity. Riverfront 3, which is the pavilion and a park-related activity. And Riverfront 2, which was the parking area down at the end of the field.
And the sand salt storage.
Sand salt storage was not prioritized. That was not a
But it was- it
that was
was-
not prioritized as an application.
What do you mean by prioritize? It was
When you said before,
prioritized two.
we did 2 and you prioritized
Yeah.
over the
And it was
salt
funded.
storage. That's right, because
It was funded.
DECD decided to prioritize it. So just to keep it in perspective, we have yet to see an application in 5 years for any infrastructure facilities.
Well, I'll also point out that they change their requests from year to year, as far as how steep funds things too. Fred?
Yeah, one thing I just, as I'm thinking, looking at, listening to your statement and looking at the letter from Policy and Management regarding preference,
Mm-hmm.
and it spells out very clearly 3 areas, economic development, preparedness, infrastructure. So if we were to come up with another one, another, let's say the board decided to go in another direction, would that, the fact that everything is, that they're prioritizing, would there be a tendency to put our application at the bottom of the pile?
We have been pretty successful with our steep grants. And one of the reasons we've been successful is we are able to complete our projects. And we have been pretty clear in how we want to get things done. So I don't really know how their decisions are made. I do know many towns do not get funded, and you don't get funded every time you apply. We've just been fortunate in how we've been able to present our projects, and our track record is good. Another project, I want to say it was the first steep project, was the match for the streetscape project. So there was the federal grant, and then it was a $250,000 grant from STEEP that allowed us to do the sidewalks on Main Street, which is an infrastructure project. So I can't clearly state how they rank the grants. I know a big part of it is what they ask for within each year.
Right, that's what I was getting at.
Which is this year.
What letter were you referring to?
I
Thank you.
put it in your packets previously.
Okay.
Carl, did you have anything you wanted to add? Any thoughts
No.
at this point?
No, I don't think right now, I'm ready to, vote on it either way. I think we're gonna have to prioritize it for
Yeah.
how we can use this grant and the most bang for,
Yeah, I'd like you to review the materials that we got last time.
Yeah.
we got reports from Public Works, we've had reports from Parks and Rec, and I would like to have the decision made at least by November, because we have to get this in.
I think I'd be ready by the next meeting.
Okay, the first meeting in November. Be good, if we could
Yeah, I
get
think
this
it's
one.
November, what's it, November 20-something is the cutoff, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
28.
28.
So we need time to write it. So we'll need to have your decision on the fifth.
Next meeting is that?
Next meeting is the fifth of November?
Okay.
Okay.
Susan, can we get an email copy of that?
Yeah,
Just wanna-
Yeah, I'll take one, two, three.
I know, I sent it to, gave it to
I
you.
know, I just wanna read the wording because, looking
Sure.
at,
Be happy
Carl
to.
wanted to see that too.
You can have that.
I think it's important that,
Excuse me.
you know, maybe one of the reasons why we have been so successful is the fact that it looks like they look for quality of life improvements and more tangible
Yes,
improvements.
it has to
than-
be a capital improvement.
Yeah.
True.
It's
It's a wonderful program, and it really does help small towns. It's, as one of you stated, it's one of the few sources that we have for ready revenue. The larger towns get block grant monies, which is federal dollars. We can compete for small cities grants, but they are very specific as to the kinds of projects that they would allow you to put forward. And a lot of that recently has been rehabilitation for housing. And, you know, every year there's different requirements for grants. This year it happens to be that STEEP is looking for infrastructure, economic development, and other types of capital improvements.
We can do more than one, split this grant money up, more than one project too now. I mean, it doesn't have to all go to.
You can put in more than one application. You only get a total of 500,000.
But out of that 500,000, can we break that 500 into different,
it's approved,
allotted
right?
to different projects?
You can.
Can we put like, just, I don't want to say what we are, but say 100,000 to a salt shed, 100,000 to some sidewalks, 100,000 to
You're
two
right.
parks?
Some towns do that, yes. We have not done that. We've done,
All or nothing on
Projects, right.
one project?
well, we did the streetscape project, that's finished.
Oh.
Then we did a road improvement at the Riverfront Park.
Yep.
So we connected Brownstone Avenue to
Right.
Middlesex Avenue, so that was an infrastructure project.
And
There was
parking
also
lot
a
there,
water
too.
main that was put in that road. Then there's a parking
There's a
lot that we
parking lot.
put in at the top, at the end of Middlesex Avenue, and then all the sidewalks were replaced
Yep.
along Middlesex Avenue and Brownstone Avenue. And then in the park itself, we did put in the stage, which Public Works assisted with. So that wasn't totally grant-driven, Public Works did a
Yeah.
lot of that work. And then we brought in the electricity, which Public Works also did for us.
Yep.
They trenched that in, and then we built the pavilion with the STEEP grant. Now, the last and the final grant for STEEP and the riverfront will be putting in water and sewer lines, so that there'll be a bathroom down there. There'll also be a cover for the stage and an improvement to the road for handicapped accessibility to get to the pavilion. So from that parking area, and we may even be able to go from Brownstone Avenue into the park itself with macadam road. Not a real road, not like a tar road, but at least a firm surface for people to drive into that area and then get into the pavilion. And then the sand salt storage shed will need more money because that's run into some difficulties in terms
That's
of
what I'm saying.
requirements.
So instead of taking the 500 to do one project or allot it to one set of things, like you're doing here, allocate some of the grant money to finish off the salts, shed, couple of,
Well, I'm
as we
hoping that
go.
maybe, because of the requirements, there'll be other monies available from either Department of Public Health or DEEP. Because they're imposing a lot of restrictions and rules,
Yep.
for the town, so, doing my best to put together a meeting with some of the state officials to see if there'd be some opportunities for other sources of money. it's really, as I've always said, it's building a relationship with the agencies and OPM so that they understand what you're doing. They want to see projects completed. They don't, of course, want you to take a project, start it, and then shelve it and never get it done. So the fact that you've presented a good analysis of the parks and what needs to be done, we've had a good analysis of the water mains that need to be replaced and how that should be done. That helps when you're presenting it to the funders. And then if you're successful, they'll refund you if you need more to finish a project. So we've been pretty successful with our parks and our infrastructure projects, and I would expect that we'll continue to be successful. I don't know that I would break up projects too much, because you want to be sure you can get a real deliverable and a tangible product from your grant. And we have done a good job by partnering with particularly Public Works to get these projects done. And I think we've done an excellent job. So, with that in mind, we'll put this back on the November 5th agenda and be prepared to have a vote on how you want to proceed. And then we'll get busy writing grants. Norm?
So I got just one question. I'm not sure we have the answer either. What came to my mind was our plan of development,
Yes.
because I've been told over the years that if we recognize it in our plan, it's easier to get grant money when we
Sure.
have.
Good point.
And I would think that a lot of this is in our plan of development.
I believe so,
It's a
yes.
good reference, I think, to use.
Yes.
Because it shows where we're going as a town, what we want, this is what our taxpayers want.
That's right.
So I think it just helps us, and it's a good tool that we should have in.
Good point. It is. And I will review that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item was on the agenda last time as well, and that is the Portland Route 17A traffic signals. I put it back on because last time it was the first time you were seeing it, but I need to have permission to sign this to then go forward with having the state of Connecticut buy 2 of our traffic lights on Main Street. Now, Rick, it's the one in front of the Brownstone Intermediate School?
It's two.
And one in front of the police department?
No, it's the two right by Fairview and Middlesex. There's two separate signals.
Right, that's the stuff to us.
There's two separate signals there. Middlesex.
One at the, closer
and
to the
Fairview.
post office, yeah.
Those, they're in bad shape, they're old,
Yeah, and they break down.
they're gonna cost a lot of money.
And we are paying for the repair of those. So should the state fix them, then they will take ownership of them, and they will then be responsible for taking care of them when there's repairs. And in your packets, there is a letter from Charles Harlow, Manager of Traffic Engineering, and he's asking for a commitment from the town for $30,000, $15,000 per streetlight, for a total of $300,000 to replace those 2 traffic lights. There's no commitment as to when they would replace those traffic lights. And what they're asking is a response by December 5th, 2014. And it would be to indicate an interest by us to put up the $30,000, which is 10% of the cost, so that the Department of Transportation will replace them, and then once they're replaced and meets their standards, then they will take ownership of them. They will not take ownership until the traffic lights meet their standards. So they want some buy-in by the town in order to do this. So this would have to be part of our long-range capital plan. Are you ready for a decision on this?
Susan, can I comment on that real quick?
Sure, Joe.
As engineer, DOT does place signals in front of the state of Connecticut they own, and they fund themselves.
Right,
So that's one advantage here. The price sounds high to me.
yeah.
for, it's not really two signals there, it's one controller, but it's got two streets, so I'm just questioning the price, it seems like it's high.
It could be that they place it at a good number, at a high number, because they don't know when they're gonna replace them. Yeah. What they're saying is, based on the department's policy, the department can't assume ownership of the signals at this time. However, they are receptive to programming the intersections in a future state project to upgrade the traffic signal equipment to current standards. Unfortunately, there are several older traffic signals throughout the state in need of replacement and programmed through the year 2020. Based on the current schedule, the earliest start date for the design phase of the subject traffic signals is the year 2020. Now, one of the individuals that I spoke with, not Mr. Harlow, but another person, said that is their estimate, but very often they do come in a little sooner than that. But they don't want to tell a town that they can have something, and then we count on it and it doesn't arrive until a later date. So I'm hoping that's an outside date, 2020. This is 2014, right?
So they're asking for money now?
No, they're asking for a commitment by the town that we want to proceed with this. So that's what I need from the selectmen.
And that'll be 10% of the cost of the project. So if it comes in less, it'll be less money. If it comes in more, we're capped at the 30.
No,
Still we're 10%.
they give you an estimate, 10%.
So it's 400,000, we're looking more money.
It won't be $400,000, $300,000 is too much.
I'm just saying that.
No, it's 300 total.
Total.
150 plus 150.
Who knows what traffic lights will cost in 2020?
10% is 30.
You don't know. It
Traffic
says,
light cost $150,000.
that's what they're telling me.
Yes.
Do we need all the colors?
Just green, right?
Green.
And if I understand this, we're paying for any repairs over the next 6 years?
We own them.
And
We own them.
We need to hope those
that
signals.
they last.
They're in fact, they are. It's a bargain. $30,000 is a bargain.
And if they, something happened to them next
We've spent a lot
year,
of money on those. The controller's ancient. We're lucky to keep it going. And that's probably of any signal you have in town, at that school and at that location, that's real important.
It is very important,
That's an
Rick,
important
yeah,
one.
because
Take-
it's
take 'em
right
up
at the
on their
school,
offer.
and it's where the parks are, a lot of walkers, the post office,
Fire department.
it's used quite a
And if it were
bit.
to break next week,
We fix it.
The last time
And you
we
can't
fixed that
fix it?
was, I don't know, I spent $4,000 or $5,000.
Rick
We can
always
spend-
figures out how to fix it.
We can spend a lot of money on that. That's a good offer, take it. Or don't take it.
I'm just asking, so if it's beyond being repaired over the next few years, we have to
What do you-
buy one and install it.
Well,
and take-
what I've been doing is nursing it along. I can kind of plug it along. but
I
mean,
wonder if you get on the list.
That's where you want.
I'm just asking, if you
Yeah.
can't fix it, it can't be repaired, and
It can be repaired. I can keep repairing it to the tune of.
let's just assume hypothetically you
I
can't do it
I
next.
can repair anything. but
Unless
I
it's a
mean,
knockdown, you repair, unless it's a knockdown, you repair.
Not the way to go.
Who owns the traffic light by Tri-Town?
State, DOT.
Because that left signal going to Tri-Town is always coming.
Well,
They're very expensive to buy and to maintain.
Since Rick has enough duct tape to fix it,
Maybe. Rick might be gone
I'll-
before the light is.
I'll make the motion that your, this first select person is authorized to sign the agreement.
Thank you, Fred.
Second.
Seconded by Brian. To sign agreement. Further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll hope for the best. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the town attorney assignment list that you had last time. I did not have the zoning board of appeals, Franklin Pillacy, who is assigned to our zoning board of appeals. So with that one addition, I'd entertain a motion of the list approval.
Move adoption, waive the reading.
Brian?
Second.
Second. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Who seconded? Thank you, Ryan. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And that is to approve attorneys. Thank you. Next is appointments to boards and commissions. Kathy Richards can't be here tonight,
Yep.
but she had indicated to me that she had appointments, and she gave them to me for planning and zoning.
Yeah, those are the other, okay.
Yeah.
Those are those two.
These were ones that had been contemplated last time.
Yes.
But there wasn't enough time to be prepared. So it would be to appoint Christian Rubenbauer as a full member of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by, hold on. Brian, and seconded by Ryan. And Christian is here tonight. Thanks for coming and serving. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Now, Mr. Warnoff has verbally resigned from a full member. And what he had asked is if he could be appointed as an alternate to planning and zoning. His work commitments and family commitments right now, he cannot attend meetings. So he would be interested in retaining an alternate's position in the event there's a need to have him serve.
So moved.
Second.
So that is to have Mr. Warnoff as an alternate. And then filling his position would be Robert Ellsworth. And Mr. Ellsworth would go from being an alternate to a full member of planning and zoning. And he's willing to do that as well. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Brian, seconded by Carl?
Yes.
And that was Bob Ellsworth. And thank you, Bob, for serving as well. Chairman of Planning and Zoning is here. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So now there are 5 full members of Planning and Zoning and 1 alternate, and there are still 2 alternate openings. If anyone is interested, contact my office.
I did years ago.
Yeah, it's a very interesting board and very busy. And there's gonna be, I think, some very good work coming forward soon. So thank you. Took care of that. Are there any other board or commission appointments tonight?
Not this time.
Not at this time, thank you. The next item under new business was something that Brian had asked us to have a discussion on, and that's public sidewalks.
Yeah, so it's a good thing that Rick is here too, I think. So periodically, as we sit here, we hear about the condition of the public sidewalks here, and overwhelmingly, I seem to hear that they are unsafe, or that there are defects, or there are problems with them. And I guess, to begin with, what I'd like to do is, and maybe this has already been done, but have these problem areas been identified, and is there something that can be done absent fixing them, which obviously is something that should be done as well, but certainly warning people about the defects or the problems that exist with these sidewalks?
I can try to address that.
Okay.
Look back in the sidewalk file today, which was an interesting file, if I recall. It was 1998, and the board wanted we talked about sidewalks at length, and they wanted to, at that time, they wanted me to go after people for bad sidewalks. So they said, we want you to go out and inspect the sidewalks. And I said, well, it kind of goes like this. If I inspect a sidewalk, I said, and I find a defect, I said, I'm bound to notify the first selectwoman, who will then have to follow your ordinance and would have to write a letter to them and say, you have so many days to improve your sidewalk, and if you don't improve your sidewalk, then we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna lien you, or we're gonna ask for the money. And let me finish if I could.
Yeah, I think that's the second part of
And in
my
any
conversation.
case, we might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
So at that time, I said, well, I'll tell you what, so I went and I looked at Waverly Avenue, 1998. And I just walked up and down Waverly Avenue, and I came back and I said, you know, probably 40% of the sidewalk is theoretically not in good condition. And the total to repair that piece of sidewalk, I think was, I don't remember the number, but it was many thousands of dollars. How do you want to, what do you want to do? And I had set up, as a matter of fact, I set up inventory sheets for all the sidewalks in town to look at lengths, widths, condition, type, age, and it stopped right there. I mean, basically, they said, well, wait a minute, you know, do we really want to go forward with that type of an action? And really, not too much more was done after that. So we've been not proactive. We've been, you know, if we have a very exceptionally bad sidewalk, basically what we do is we'll talk to the property owner, we'll see if we can tell them they gotta do it in a orderly fashion. 9 times out of 10, we've had people fall, and the liability unfortunately or fortunately falls to the adjoining owner based on your ordinance. So sidewalks have really not been, we've made great strides with sidewalks with the grants. We've done sidewalks in the downtown area as parts of projects. But other than that, we've done bits and pieces. Our own town properties, we've done all the sidewalks that adjoin our town properties, kept them up to date. But when it comes to a sidewalk that's on a town street, or a state street, actually, we have not been proactive, I should say, in making people repair poor sidewalks. So no, I don't have an inventory, you could not begin to, for me to inventory all the sidewalks in town, is probably, I kind of guesstimated today, I think there's about 70,000 feet of sidewalks in town, more or less. I just took 65 miles and I said maybe 30%, 20% have sidewalks, and some have them both sides of the road, some have them one side of the road, and of those 20% of the sidewalks, maybe 10% needs to be repaired. That's probably more than that. And I came up with, for example, 68,000 feet. And I multiplied that times, I just did an estimate last year for a steep grant, or not a steep grant, but a grant that they were working on in front of the Brownstone School. So last year, I prepared an estimate of a 700-foot length of sidewalk that basically all of us know it goes from Middlesex Avenue to the old country market, actually to Peterson's. And it was 700 feet, and it was 5 feet wide. And the cost to replace that sidewalk, to pull out the old and put in the new, was about $46,670. So if you break that down to Mrs. Smith, who lives on whatever street you want, and she has 100 foot of sidewalk, you know, she's looking at 10 grand, probably, to replace that sidewalk. Maybe we should do that. But when you start looking, you know, if you want to really look at sidewalk replacements, I estimate you probably got, I said 20,000 lineal feet needs 80,000 square feet at $12 a square foot. You got $1 to $2 million of sidewalk repair in town, if you wanted to tackle it all. So, you know, to number one, to inventory it, we can do that. It's gonna be a major, it's, you know, fairly significant effort, because there's one of me. Two, when I go out and look at them, do I inventory them or do I inspect them? And if I observe a defect or an unsafe thing, what do I do? What do you want me to do? You want me to tell her and she writes them a letter? So it's not an easy thing, what I'm trying to say.
I mean, I think I'm in the minority here in terms of talking about this last week, but I think the town has an obligation to keep public sidewalks safe. Maybe everybody obviously will probably agree with that.
When are we gonna get the state law on that?
But, the state law?
Yeah, isn't that how we left at the last meeting? We said that we would look into what the state law actually required as far as
So
like
it's the property.
It's property.
Brian didn't
Yeah.
agree with me, but
Although.
Well, I just think, you know, if the town's gonna put a public sidewalk in front of someone's house, that in reality, it should fall on the town to keep that in repair and take care of it. I certainly think from a legal standpoint, there's no doubt about that. I don't disagree with something that you said, right? But the town has a legal duty to keep that public sidewalk safe, there's no doubt about it.
We do, we
Yes.
do. And our duty is to make sure that the property owner repairs it timely and takes care of it.
I understand you can do that. If you're talking about legal liability, which you mentioned, the legal liability for a defect on a sidewalk, I don't care what this ordinance says, does not fall on the adjacent landowner. It
It's not
falls
the
on-
ordinance, it's a state law.
The state law indicates that if there is snow or ice on a sidewalk and a municipality passes an ordinance passing the liability on to the adjacent landowner, you can do that and they're responsible, but that is limited to snow and ice. It does not apply to defects, and there's no doubt about that. So the town is liable for any harm that is caused to someone because of a defect on a sidewalk. So
Then how
if our
come
ordinance
people-
says that, it's not,
But I want to ask you a question then.
yeah.
There's been many, many instances where people fall on sidewalks.
Mhm.
And they will file a suit against the homeowner. And they file suit against the town. And it's been my experience, because I can think of a case
And mine.
where the property owner was held liable by the court, and they had to pay for the danger or for the.
For the harm caused,
For the
to
harm
someone, but that would be a
caused.
very rare exception where that would apply, where an adjacent landowner is responsible for that, unless it's due to snow or ice. That
No,
is the
this was
only.
not.
It's not the case, Ben Ryan.
I'm just
I'll tell you, I
telling
do
you
this for a
what-
living.
Yeah.
I guarantee you
Well,
that,
I've been-
that judgment will enter, against the plaintiff bringing a claim against the adjacent landowner if you're claiming that there's a hole in a public
Can you
sidewalk.
recall where the town has paid on an injury? I cannot. In 20 years, I can't. And there've been numerous, there have been numerous ones. Seriously, I don't, it's your field.
The law is unfair as it relates to someone falling on a sidewalk, because the law changes and towns have certain immunities and they have to prove sole proximate cause, the plaintiff has to prove sole proximate cause to win against a town, meaning, you know, if they're 1% at fault for the accident, they don't recover.
I defer.
That's the law against a municipality with a public sidewalk, unless it's snow or ice on a sidewalk. The town has the ability to transfer liability to the adjacent landowner. It's their responsibility, and the law is different. The landowner's on the hook for that. But regardless of any of that, I still think the town has an obligation to keep public sidewalks safe, and I would think that the town would have an obligation to inspect those sidewalks to see if they are safe. And at the very least, you know, do something, put a blockade up, put, you know, an orange paint there or something to warn people that there's a problem there. And I think we do have an obligation to do that. I know that I'm in the minority in terms of who's responsible for fixing the sidewalks. I think you know, the town requires you to have a sidewalk through your front yard. You know,
Well,
the town should take care of it.
The
That's-
town
that's-
is the people, so all the people that are in this room are gonna pay for it. If you own a
As
sidewalk or you
opposed
don't,
to
right?
Mr. Smith who lives on Main Street.
It's not,
and-
but when you say the town, of course, you're meaning you and me and Ryan and Carl and everybody who pays taxes. So the town is what you're saying.
I don't have a public
Right?
sidewalk, but it would seem like
But
an
you would
imposition
want-
to
you don't
me.
want your
You don't want-
taxes.
You wouldn't want one, and it would seem like an imposition to me if the town said, we want to put a sidewalk in your front yard and you have to fix it, maintain it, and pay for it. That seems unfair to me. If the town, as you're
everybody.
describing it, should
Everybody.
be responsible for that. If they're imposing a sidewalk, go on someone's private property. That's how I look at it. And I know I'm in the minority, but I think that why do we make poor Mrs. Smith, 90-year-old, who happens to own a house on Main Street or somewhere, fix and replace a sidewalk? It just doesn't seem fair to me. It doesn't make sense.
I've been thinking about this, because I'm a sidewalk person, so I had some, I think we have a walker here who probably
I
can,
can tell
yes,
you
she can
exactly.
inventory the
You're
whole
finished.
town for us. But it's interesting, because I think, there are some towns, in a few places, and again, I guess it's a town-by-town thing, where they do make some exceptions in terms of sidewalks. One is there some other use, for example, one community, I think it's Southington, is going through a discussion on sidewalks that are being used or being abandoned. They were used by children frequently, as we have children walking all over town to school. and they were town-owned sidewalks. So there are exceptions. The other thing I thought of was that we have,
Fred, I didn't follow you. Exceptions to what?
well, to that concept of ownership. In other words, a town is responsible in those cases in some towns for some sidewalk ownership, not necessarily all of it. The other thing we have in town is that we do have, and we've been solving that with our tree trimming and removal, et cetera, but if we look at our sidewalks, a lot of them are damaged severely by town-owned trees, which are really causing the damage. Which raises an interesting point in terms of trying to get at this idea of repair.
By the way,
Anyway,
that's
I'd
an-
like to see.
By the way,
it-
that's an exception that might apply if it were a privately owned tree caused damage to the sidewalk.
In the
someone got
case,
hurt,
in
there
the
would be a
case,
claim against the
Yeah.
private landowner.
in the case of a
That's
tree that
very,
has
very
caused
acceptable.
damage to a sidewalk, we have assumed responsibility.
Okay, so those sidewalks that we have in town that are still damaged because of our trees, we would replace those at no cost to the property owner. Because we do have certain, quite a few,
Many,
yeah,
East Main Street.
yeah.
many. There's
The
many everywhere.
intersection of Freestone Avenue and East Main Street, where the sidewalks go like this and they're
Yeah.
rhinestone.
Yeah, so-
I don't walk that street anymore.
I went running at night one time and it
Oh.
was
Yeah.
dangerous.
And I wonder if we could, yeah, maybe we could look at that, Rick, because those would be some of the worst, like we said, there's bad sidewalks, there's bad. If you have 25 grand set, I don't know what you have set aside.
I don't have any.
Oh, you don't have any?
I've been proposing since 2005.
I thought you had 25.
All the way from 2005 until the last one to set money aside to get a program. Matter of fact, in 2005, I said sidewalk repair reconstruction program. Begin a program to assist homeowners to reconstruct sections of sidewalks adjacent to their property that are in poor condition.
Rick, is there anything in capital for town-owned sidewalks?
Might be, but it's, again. you're-
Rick's referring to a sidewalk replacement
Yeah.
program.
And that's where you,
We have
and
not
again,
funded.
it's not a fair, and I guess if I could interject, I agree with, there's two sides to this story.
Sure.
And I don't disagree with what you're saying, and it isn't necessarily fair, and I get questioned on it all the time. So what I thought is a compromise would be to assist the homeowner. In other words, you wanna start improving sidewalks and keep it practically real. Probably a good suggestion is to say, okay, we're gonna set money aside every year, and this coming year, okay, I'll pick a street, Waverly Avenue. Waverly Avenue, we send a letter out to everybody on Waverly Avenue. This year is Waverly Avenue's turn, and we will share in the cost of whatever you folks want. Half of the cost, we'll get a contractor, and you'll get a street done, and they'll bear part of the burden, we'll bear part of the burden. It's a good program, and maybe a good compromise to where we're going. But it hasn't ever gotten off the ground, and that's since 2005. I don't know why.
Well, there's a couple of different issues going on, so, and Norm brought this up last week, so it appears to me that there's sort of this unbalanced approach or application of what sidewalks actually get fixed. Sometimes it gets taken care of for a business more often than not, where the business isn't paying anything, but again, you're gonna make some landowner, a private person pay for it. So the application of this doesn't seem fair either, where you require one person to do it, not another. And what you're talking about, whatever the program is, it makes sense, as opposed to having owner one do it this year, owner two try and match it up to the next one, and the next piece, and the next piece. I mean, you're just asking for trouble, I would assume,
Well, I
about
mean,
the
no
sidewalks,
matter
but.
what you do here, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise it would have been resolved. I mean, you have a major issue here.
Uh-huh.
And I don't envy you what your decision is. I'm just trying to think of ways that you could approach it. There's a lot, I'll tell you, as you well know, and I know a lot, there's a lot of sidewalk in town that is in need of repair. And we haven't, we've tried as best we could to do what we can with grants, for example. We've concentrated practically on the downtown area where most of the people walk. So that's why we looked at street improvement grants and stuff like that. I mean, there's no right or wrong here. But I
Which
mean,
you've done,
you
you've
can-
improved from basically the bridge.
Yeah, we're up to the post office.
Middlesex Avenue.
You know, we did two projects, two separate
Right.
projects. The first steep grant, quite honestly, was in 2004, and it was a repair project that took from, we repaired pieces of site. That was $150,000, and all
That
that
was
did was
Urban
repair.
Act money.
Was that Urban Act?
Yeah.
But that was a grant.
But we didn't require Hess to do it or anybody else down there.
Well, we
I'm
did
thinking-
require Hess to do it. When Hess redid their site, they had to, they did some major improvements themselves there. We
Portland
did some,
Restaurant.
we
I'm
did
picking
some there.
somebody out. I
We
mean-
did some too. We did some too.
We're
yes.
doing work
Yes.
for them, and
Yes,
we're
it's
not
not fair.
subsidizing it for other
I don't
people.
disagree with you. But, you know, there's two sides of the coin. If you're gonna take it on, you know, you're looking at millions,
Sizable amount of
millions
money, yeah.
to do
It's,
it. And a lot of enforcement and a heck of a lot of,
Thanks.
bodies, and a heck of a lot of bodies to even get this thing off. To inventory the sidewalks is a fairly significant task.
Although the alternative is to keep dangerous sidewalks where people continue to
I'm
get
not
hurt who
saying
live
it's
in
right
town,
or
and
wrong.
I can tell you that, you know, I see this all the time, that you wouldn't think it necessarily
Many
from a fall,
towns-
but you can suffer awful injuries from
If you
a
check
simple
around,
fall.
many towns, you just need to be, a lot of towns, a lot, operate exactly the same as we do. That's fact.
Why don't I
That's fair enough.
see-
and I
Brian,
know
why
that
don't
I'm
I
a
see
minority, I
if I
just
can-
disagree with it, it just
why
doesn't
don't-
seem right to me.
I like sidewalks. I agree with you, I like sidewalks. It's, what I worry about is how we pay for it, and how do you manage it, as Rick was saying.
If-
And we can figure that out and come up with a plan. And then the voters have to decide if they want to endorse the plan, and we move forward on it, because ultimately, that's who pays for it, is all of us. pay
Yeah,
for
I
it.
mean, a parallel thing is, you know, we talk about pipes all the time. You know, that goes in front of somebody's house, that person's not gonna pay for that pipe to get fixed individually. I mean, what is the difference? Why are we, you know, it just doesn't make sense to me, it just seems totally unbalanced.
And I will also say that some people do want sidewalks put in, not maybe in front of their home, but, for example, along, where we put the trees on East Main, I had someone come in and ask me to put a sidewalk along the Trinity Cemetery.
Someone who
Because there's no
doesn't live,
sidewalk.
someone who doesn't live on East Main.
There was a
Correct.
sidewalk there.
Right, so,
I know.
so that
But
person
we
should be
moved it.
responsible for paying for it in part.
Sure.
as-
Same
Right?
thing-
Sure.
Same thing all over town.
Sure,
Yeah.
That's not, there's
Sure.
many different situations that you have.
sure.
It's a big issue.
I do, if I can just for a second, I do think it makes sense though, because I hear this in these meetings I mean, more than periodically, about how there are certain spots that are unsafe, and rather, you know, if there's not enough money to fix it, there certainly is the ability to do something to warn people about it, right? I mean,
Yeah, well,
there are a lot of, you know, uneven areas, and you can paint it in orange or do whatever, you know, anything along those lines.
Practic-
Walk in the street.
Yeah, practically,
Unfortunately.
it sounds good, but it isn't that easy to do. You know, I can put, and we put cones up. If I see a bad one that I need to, we have to fix and nobody's doing anything, we'll put cones there. But cones, nothing permanent, because it's kind of an obstruction in itself. It's not as simple as it appears, and there's a lot.
It just seems that it makes more sense to do something rather than to leave a known
Come up
danger
with a
alone and do
program.
nothing.
Like I say, if you,
Especially the fact that the town knows that it's a problem.
again, it's all about money. And it's, you know, if you wanna go at it, you're looking at millions.
Trips over the brownstone.
And we can, excuse me, and we can, then proceed, you know, it's not an easy issue by any means. And there's no good answers, and it's not fair.
The other thing we can do, two things, Brian, is I think we can have a public hearing, and see what
That'd be a good idea.
people want to do about this. So we're hearing comments tonight, and we can also get information from our Connecticut Conference of Municipalities as to maybe other towns and programs that they've come up with to address this issue. We're not the only town by any means that has this problem. The other issue, and I mentioned this, because you know how certain things, you drive on the same street or you walk on the same street all the time, and there's issues. On Main Street, we have old curbs that were put in place, I believe in the 70s and 80s, that are crumbling. And those need to be replaced, because someone can trip on that too, or cars will go over that. And this coming season, which would be probably July-ish, the state of Connecticut's gonna repave Main Street, 17A. And there are some businesses that have an apron that goes from the sidewalk, Brian, to the road or to the drain line. And the state of Connecticut says the owner of the building has to pay for that. And what they're recommending is that we have a program set up whereby we get someone to do that work and then get those owners to get a good price, and they all get it done at the same time before DOT paves 17A. And as you're doing that, I think you wanna look at some of those curbs, because they're gonna pave around those, I call them teardrop curbs that come out. Because if you notice, the next time you're walking on Main Street, they're starting to fall apart. They're kind of part of the sidewalk, but then again, they're not. So,
Couple ideas on the sidewalk. I think what you need is a sidewalk master plan. I think you talk about what to be fixed, what do you have, you don't know. And Rick's right, it takes a lot of effort. Maybe you can have some students do that. Maybe that's a senior capstone project. That's something to be done, you know. I can look at my students at Central to do as a project next year. It's not as exciting or sexy as something we've done, but that's an idea. Have kids do it. I mean, yes, they can evaluate, Rick, if it's you know, not ADA compliant. They
Right.
can identify areas that are bad, and someone else can come afterwards and look at it. But having a plan, an inventory of all sidewalks, that's something you have done with someone else instead of town staff to have students do it and then just have someone oversee it.
it's a good idea.
And then you know what you've got, what you're faced
Right.
with, and like Rick said, millions of dollars, how much it costs to replace that, and it's over so many years. At least you got a plan, at least you're doing something. You're showing you're doing something to address it. And there are liability issues there. I mean, you could have someone, it could be a public relations issue. Someone's in a wheelchair, did something, falls over, boom, and newspaper's slow news day, they're on scene, and it's.
Of course.
that's what
No,
takes, so.
it's a real problem. So, do you have a date in mind for a public hearing? Do you wanna wait to get more information?
The point of the public hearing is what, how to pay for this?
Hear more of our citizens and how they wanna handle it.
Well, I think the town has an obligation, has a duty regardless to actually address it, and then the question is how it gets fixed.
But again, my issue is the town is the people that live here, and I think we should, as you're saying, I think you have a good point, Brian, and I think a lot of people will agree with you. There's many people.
I guess my point is,
that
I don't
use
know if you have a
sidewalks.
public hearing, whether it matters, if everybody said, we don't have an obligation to keep it safe, we still have an obligation to keep it safe, so
I just like to hear what people have to say.
that's fine, so we can do that.
I think we have to have a plan and a policy of what we're going
Yeah.
to do for it. I mean, we can't keep
Why don't we
shooting off
start
the-
with
we have
that?
to
Why don't we start with, some ideas from this board?
Absolutely, from the-
And then,
And we go
as
from
we
there and
proceed,
build
you can
out.
determine if you wanna have a public hearing.
And then from there, they can have some options at the public hearing, say, how do you want to do it? This way, that way. At least we have a plan, we have some way to
You know
do
what's
it.
gonna happen is the people who live on a public sidewalk are gonna say that the town should take care of it, the people who don't.
Well,
you know, they're gonna.
Well, and I said this last time, many of our homeowners and business owners take care of their sidewalks, not only in the snow and ice, but they also do repair them. And what they do is they do contact my office and they tell me. There were some people, I can remember vividly on Strong's Avenue, they had terrible sidewalks. And they replaced them and sent me a letter and explained with pictures what they had done. And it's really a vast improvement. And many of our Main Street owners have also done that, so I appreciate that.
And that's something we have to do with the plan and policy, is what is a sidewalk? How do you do the sidewalk? Is it gonna be concrete? I've seen a couple different ways of doing the sidewalk. You have to
We
have
have
a
an
standard.
answer to that.
We have to have a
We
standard
have
what to do.
we have specifications, good
But
specifications.
some of them are out there, I've seen that they've changed the sidewalks and went to pavers.
Yeah, they have, by rights, they need to come in and get a permit. If they're gonna
So-
do their sidewalk, it's
They
an
may have
excavation
done it
permit.
without
Many
a
people
permit.
don't do that without a
Yeah,
permit.
so-
The other thing you wanna be careful if you do begin to contemplate is who's gonna maintain them. I hope maintaining sidewalks, the repair issue is much simpler than maintenance. You get into maintaining sidewalks, you could double your staff. I mean, there's no way in the world we have the staff to clean sidewalks.
That's why cities years ago
Clean
put.
Snow removal or anything like that. You're not proposing that.
I believe our ordinance is pretty straightforward
Good.
about that.
Well, it's-
That has been adopted by the town, that
Good.
is the obligation.
It's
of-
pretty straightforward on the repair also, but I just wanted to throw that in.
I understand, but there's an enabling statute
Above it.
that allows a town to adopt the ordinance, making adjacent landowners liable for snow and ice. There is not an enabling statute that allows the town to pass an ordinance to make an adjacent landowner responsible for maintaining, for fixing it. So that's the difference. So the ordinance is not, it's not valid as far as that goes. It may be valid about making people pay for it, but that's a different issue.
So the plan is going to be to have further discussions and then a public hearing after we have a couple of ideas of what to consider. Is that what we're talking about?
Mhm.
Sounds like it.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Sounds pretty good.
That's a good plan to plan.
Good plan and a plan.
You know what, could we wait for public comment, Norm? Is that okay? Because I just wanted to get through the agenda. Sure. The Board of Selectmen contribution to Portland High School 2014 Baseball Championship use of contingency. I believe I sent to you information on this, and the figure was approximately $4,700, as I recall. And there was a request from the athletic director that the selectmen fund that portion of the rings. Is it in your packets?
Yeah.
Yes, in the pink. We had, through me, the selectmen had asked that I get in touch with the high school after the soccer team won the state championship, as well as after the championship was won by the baseball team. And previous to that, we had been in touch with the schools when the cross-country teams had won state championships. I think they won 3 or 4. So there has been some precedent for some contribution, at least asking. And because we were fortunate to have 2 state championship teams at our high school in one school year, they have depleted quite a bit of their funds in their athletic fund. And I think more than anything, it's important for the town to celebrate the championship. So I would be in favor of us taking from contingency this amount to show our pride for our high school. And while it's going to the baseball team, it really is for the entire school and the teams that won, because they used their own funds for the soccer team, and they did not need to ask us to help in that regard. But I wanted to bring this to your attention.
I'm in favor of this. I just am curious if this sets a precedent for future. I mean, what if every team won the championship?
That'd be wonderful.
Which would be great, yeah. I just don't know. Does this mean that we should pay for all future championships? I don't know. That's
It's
just.
a rhetorical question, I think others can answer. I mean, we haven't in the past. I think we may have.
It's unusual, it
small.
really, for a state championship, how often do you know, we've been fortunate, town, the school's done a good job, and the athletes, and we've been fortunate that, and the kids have, that they've been so successful, but I mean, it's not, I was one, I think someone else, maybe it was Mark too, brought this up, and I think Susan did too, that somehow we want to recognize when our students do outstanding things, and it might be, something other than athletics, it might fall into that category, but I was looking at the athletics. I think when they do something that's really outstanding, it's nice to be recognized, and it's nice that the selectmen in the town to initiate something, so. You're right, it could in the future be, but it's not gonna be as much as sidewalks, We have a lot.
We gotta
In the
start
scheme of
comparing
things, it's not gonna
everything
be a
to
big
sidewalks.
number, It's a
Yeah.
small number.
I'm in favor of it as well, although has there been any discussion, maybe you've said this with the Board of Education and us as well, or?
What I did was I got in touch with the schools when the superintendent, former superintendent was there, but I also went directly to the athletic director, and he had indicated they did not need anything in the spring, but then he contacted me on October 1st and said that they find that their local athletic fund is a source of money for this expense, and it is somewhat depleted, in part from expenses relating to celebrating the girls' soccer state championship last fall. Off the top of my head, I don't think Portland has ever had 2 state championships in one school year. The total cost of the rings and pendants for the 2 girls, who are our manager scorekeepers, is $4,275. Will the town be able to help defray this cost? Thank you for any help you can provide. And the only reason Mr. Borg is contacting me is because I had asked him and said that there was an interest by this board specifically to approach the high school and show our appreciation.
It's a winning tax.
Might discourage some people from supporting that.
I would make the motion, but I need to have some guidance as far as the amount.
4275.
I would say that.
And I'll second
And
that.
the Board of Ed, have we asked them to contribute through their budget? Where they seem to
You
maybe
can
find
ask
some
them.
money,
No, they're strapped.
you know? I think that we could find some money from maybe on the Board of Ed side for helping out the children, because it's a Board of Ed activity. It's something that, for the children, for the students. And I think that's a well-deserved money going that way than maybe some other expenditures that we're looking at. So I would think that we should be looking at the Board of Ed, or a minimum matching or something to that effect.
Would be setting an example, perhaps, by making a contribution, and then they'll find out certainly that we're making a contribution, and then I'm sure they'll get the message that we are. Well, I'm gonna make a motion anyway, because I like the idea, and it's not a lot of money. Do anyone have a figure? I don't wanna.
4275.
You do?
4275.
It's on the,
That's a little high.
I'm not making it up, that's what it is.
That's the total.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you make the 42. I would make something lower, Brian.
I make a motion that the town contribute $4,275 to pay for the cost of the rings and the gifts for the managers and scorekeepers.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Do you want to take a vote?
For the discussion, again, I'd like to see the Board of Ed picking up some of the freight on this, I really do.
I agree with Carl.
I don't want the 42 just coming from us. I think the Board of Ed should be I like the idea. That's not that's who's paying for it and what side of our town is paying for it, our government. I would like to go back to the Board of Ed and say, hey, boom up, or part of it. Maybe we
Well,
could split it.
why don't we take a vote on this motion?
Is there any public comment on that?
No. Not when there's a motion on the table, I can't. Do you want to take a vote on that? Has the motion been made and seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
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 How many ayes? 4 ayes? So there's Brian, Ryan, Fred,
And the motion again is that
Susan?
we paid 42?
Yep.
My main thing is that it is because they won 2 championships in 1 year, and it is an undue burden that necessarily doesn't come every year, and if they win a championship next year, the town shouldn't have to pay for that, but, it doesn't happen every day.
Now, does the board want me to ask the Board of Education if they would?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
To contribute to this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say minimum 50%.
Yeah,
From Carl.
we've.
We could do a 50 on this.
We did. But they can also contribute if they so choose, yes. To defray the cost. We would just have to come back and revisit it. The other thing is,
The
frankly.
town of Portland has
frankly-
never won the baseball.
Frankly, can I say another thing? If the Board of Education wants to contribute to the athletic fund, they can do that. And they can contribute as much as they want. You voted to pay for the rings. The board did. But that doesn't mean that they can't begin to replenish the athletic fund, because it sounds like it's depleted. And I think that would be a good gesture as well.
When you're referring to the athletic fund, you're referring to not
I'm
the Board of
referring to
Education
what
athletic
Mr.
fund.
Borg said here. He called it, what did he call it, Brian?
The local athletic.
the local athletic fund, is another source of money for this type of expense. It is somewhat depleted, in part from expenses related to celebrating the girls' soccer state championship last fall. What I think this is the amount that's put aside for special events that they utilize. That can be replenished.
My question only, I don't know if you know, is it the board doing that, or that's outside money, I'm assuming? This local fund that he's referring to, or no?
What do you mean by that?
The money that's in there now?
You could determine if you wanted to
Like
take
side,
some
you know, I
town
don't know what
money
it's
and
called,
put
but
it.
sideliners, that kind of, he's not referring to that, is he? Like an outside fund?
Who, Mr. Chudzik?
Mr. Board.
Oh, no, that's something that he has access to. Now,
It's
what
Board
I'm.
of Education money is what he's referring to, that's all I'm asking.
No, I think this is a special fund, and maybe if I could indulge some of the high school parents in the audience.
I think you're referring to the Portland Sideliners. I'm not
That's
sure
what I'm
it's-
assuming
yeah,
he's
I'm not sure
referring
it's
to.
that.
No.
I think,
Oh.
Board of Education money that I think goes into is an athletic stipend or
Fund.
But aside from that, my daughter was on the high school championship soccer team, and I don't think they spent $4,700 because they didn't get ranked. I just think in the future, it's fine that you guys did that. I think that's a ridiculous number. And I also think, and I don't disagree that we should reward kids for their great athletic. I think you guys should maybe limit on what you're gonna cap it and say, we'll contribute a certain percent or a certain dollar amount. But I'd like to know, like, how much did they spend on all these other championships that they depleted their funds? How much was their funds? Before, just talk about sidewalks, who's gonna pay for it? And, you know, not that I don't think we should do something great for the teams that win athletic things, but I think that's a lot of money for them to wear rings. And I just think you guys should be either coming up with, hey, we'll contribute a certain amount, I don't know, it's not sideliners or something, find out how much they already spent, how much was their budget to begin with, and maybe they need to do a better job balancing their budgets before they go in and figure out how much they should be spending on a soccer championship in this fall, because something great may happen in the spring with another team.
Absolutely. They also bought the rings, ordered rings without funds?
I'm not gonna get into the detail.
Yeah.
I was just wondering.
I don't wanna get into the detail. It's really up to the selectmen as to whether they
Voted for money.
voted, right. And there has been expenses associated with athletics. I know there's a tremendous amount of expenses. And I know that there were banners bought, I believe there were jackets bought for the soccer team, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't get jackets? That night I was there, I thought that they got, at the championship.
I think they had a dinner, they got, I think, a necklace, and the Central Connecticut gave them a plaque.
Because when my daughter won the state championship for cross-country, they got jackets, they had a special dinner at St. Clement's, and they had pendants as well. So I don't know that there's always consistency in how they determine. I don't know, and I don't pretend to know.
No, and I think it's a great
Yeah.
gesture on the town's part to do something, I just think, again, hopefully these things come up. I
Yeah,
don't
we
think
hope,
it's a
we
good
hope
thing.
you have
Yeah,
these
we have the
problems, you're
problem
right.
with
I just
Right.
think, you know,
But that's your policy,
Next
you
year,
say you have a
everyone who
policy.
wins gets a new sidewalk.
Well, did you vote? No? I didn't have a vote from you.
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain. Because I don't think we have enough information. I don't know if this I'd like to see Board of Ed get in until this gets further resolved. I would abstain on this.
Okay.
They're not gonna
And
pay.
it's not that I don't think they should deserve it, that it should be done. But again, it's the money and who should be paying for it.
Sure.
you know.
And I will speak to the Board of Ed, and I'll bring back to you
Yeah,
any
that's
additional
what I
information.
was saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are moving on to refund of excess payments.
That's to be marked.
You got it.
Move a refund of $723 even to Toyota Lease Trust.
Sec- Seconded by Carl? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
$431.95 to Michael P. and Linda P. Hassett.
Okay, that's Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Carl. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The
The
next?
sums of $321.78, $929.58, and $946.22 to Jarvis Penfield.
And there is an explanation in your packets as to that particular matter. Is there,
Second.
seconded by Ryan? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next item was an addition to our agenda, and that is the reappointment of our building official, Mr. Lincoln White, for the term of November 1, 2014 through October 31, 2018. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Brian, seconded by Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Tree Subcommittee report. Did anyone want to report on that?
Got it, Fred.
Oh, you want me to do it? What do we do? I'll be very brief. We did meet, and I think it's good that when we set up a program as we did for the replacement and on the trimming of trees and the replacement, that it be an ongoing program. Otherwise, if it's not ongoing, it's kind of pointless to do it. So we started it last year, now we're into this year. Rick had indicated we had allocated some money in the budget for plantings and some plantings this year. We're going to get together. Ryan, Susan, and I were on that committee in regards to where the trees might go, and Rick will be there too, so that they can be placed. If anyone else, Carl or Ryan, you have any ideas or thoughts on where to put them, let us know. He also indicated that there will be the stump removal, which is good, because the stumps certainly, as they sit there, are pretty ugly after we remove the trees. I think what we're doing really goes along with what the state had indicated, that towns and municipalities really have to make plans to manage our roadsides, they call them their roadsides forests, better by taking inventory of what we have, looking at the risk from public safety point of view, determining the balance, and then by improving the town's appearance with the plantings. So I think we're really we're on course with what the state was recommending and really what our own plan of conservation and development suggested. So I think we're on the right path. Anything to add, Ryan?
Well, I think we just talked about $12,000 spent on the tree removal, about $2,000 for stump grinding, and then $6,000 on tree planting. So I think that was the total of the $20,000 that we have in this fund allocated for these trees.
Very good. Any questions?
No, yeah,
Carl?
comment is, alongside with, your tree, you do good work. And I agree with Fred that it's gotta be an ongoing program, because they grow every year. It's something that's gonna be coming, and they're dying every year, stuff is falling. So maybe while we were looking at this, we could also kind of tie in the sidewalk, where our programs are. So if there are some trees that are, which ones should be removed, the ones that are possibly affecting the sidewalks that are really bad, maybe should get some kind of priority or something, so it works together harmoniously with our sidewalk program.
Good idea.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
Public comment? Norm, did you have a comment?
Yeah. One was on our sidewalks.
Do you mind speaking in the microphone, Norm? It's helpful, thank you.
My voice is loud too.
It is, it's a good voice. Carries well. The thing is, when people are watching this on tape,
Yeah, but nobody else had to come up, but I don't mind.
We like you up there.
that's why I asked.
I don't mind.
Force you.
That's why I had my hand up, so I wouldn't have to yell out. Sidewalk repairs. Heard tonight that we started this back in 1998, so that's 16 years. One suggestion, Sue, you mentioned a little bit on the curbing.
Yeah.
The town doesn't have the money to spend for sidewalk repairs, it's not our responsibility, so let's move ahead, work on that, but in the meantime, maybe the town can at least come in and assist with a subcontractor. We set up our town in divisions and say, all right, we're gonna do these 4 streets next year. Who would like to come in and contribute? Encourage the property owner to come in. We're doing Waverly, we're doing whatever. By us subcontracting out 8 or 9 homes or whatever we got, we're doing them a service, so hopefully they can get a cheaper price.
Right.
We're not looking for the town to match or pay 50-50. That would be great. But at least benefit the owner, who right now is legally responsible, and say, maybe if we can subcontract it out as a group, we can help defray some of your costs. And that would encourage them to do it. And if it doesn't, well then, if we can force it, here we are. It's gonna cost you $4,000, but if you did it on your own, you would have paid $9,000. So I think it cushions the blow. We're not totally the bad person at that point. And if we weren't at it for 16 years, I would agree, let's just move forward, but maybe we can at least do that, and that's 4 or 5 years. And the other thing is, on our tree subcommittee, I hear we spent $6,000 on new plantings.
I think that is projected.
Yeah, the
This-
number doesn't matter.
Okay.
What I'm gonna reference is years ago, we worked with Sale and P, and they donated through planning and zoning, they donated a lot of
Oh.
trees. We planted, because I know I was part of that, we planted along 66 by Tri-Town.
Right.
We planted some on Main Street. That was all due to, they had a program going on for power lines. So it was the type of plantings they wanted that wouldn't interfere with their power lines, and that was the theory behind it. Of course, they grew a little taller than we expected. But we should always be looking at that type of program, I think, is, to me, that was a major help years ago when we did it. And we had a lot of volunteers through the town that worked on that program. So you had a lot of community service. You had local businesses that volunteered in their equipment and time. Because all CLP did was gave you,
I know, I remember that, and 'cause a lot of those trees are still there. They're
yeah,
nice
that was a,
trees.
I
Yeah.
thought that was a win-win
Very
program
nice.
for a lot, so.
Yeah. I'm not sure they have that program now. They do have a program that tells municipalities what kinds of trees are good. But I think that was a special program that CLMP
Right.
had, and I remember
But
those trees are
they
very
might-
nice.
They might be having another one due to
Sure.
everything that's
I
been
will
going
ask.
on, and
I will
we
ask
never know,
Ron.
so we should always keep our eyes open
Yep.
and ears open for that, because I think that was a win-win for the town. It got our citizens involved, it was a nice community effort, and it served a great purpose.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. Good suggestions. Any other public comment? Informal discussion.
I just want to go on record and say, this was the first I heard about Mark stepping down off the board.
Yeah, I received a letter yesterday, I believe. He called me on Friday and said it would be coming.
I just want to say that I think it's a very big loss for the board, and that he's going to be very, very missed here. It's been a pleasure working with him over the 3 or so years I've been on the board, and he's brought a real lot to the table. And whoever replaces him is going to have some very big shoes to fill.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, that's well said. He's gonna really be missed by the board.
I agree.
He had a lot to contribute, had a lot of knowledge and history too in the town, which is so valuable.
And Brian and Carl agree as well.
I'm gonna miss him too.
Definitely.
He was
It's
the rock.
unfortunate that,
You're right, he was.
He was the rock, he was steady
He
when he
is.
was there, he felt good to having him there.
That's right.
He's gonna be very well.
We are gonna miss him. But
He just won't.
he contributed a tremendous amount, and to be
Yes, he did.
here in that chair for 12 years is quite
Yes,
an
he did.
accomplishment.
he told me he's still gonna go out to dinner with me before meetings now.
Oh, how nice. How nice. The water and sewer, I don't have anything specific. After the presentation last time from MDC, there was additional information that finance and myself and Rick Kelsey gained. So we're still working on some information that we want to bring back to you, specifically in terms of rates. And we're working on that. So we will follow up on that. I don't have anything to add for topics for policy discussion at this point, but we may, the next meeting. And I have a meeting set up with the superintendent. I'll be speaking with him this coming week, to see if there's any updates, in terms of the business manager position.
And I also just formally want to request to be a liaison
Yes.
for the Board of Ed.
That would be great, Ryan.
Thanks.
Thank you. Should be helpful. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, we have,
Go ahead, Norm.
Being a member of the Water and Sewer Commission,
Mhm.
that was the main reason I came tonight to, we're going to discuss water and sewer rates, I was told. And that came up at the last meeting when we had the
Yes.
MDC here. So I'm a little disappointed coming and we're not discussing anything on it. Because it's been on the burner with water and sewer for months and months.
There are many issues that we need to look at in terms of rates. You're absolutely correct.
But we haven't started any discussions with one another.
Well,
I thought this was the
Yes.
catalyst, I thought the MDC was the catalyst. When
Yes.
it came to that meeting, we said we're gonna discuss rates at this meeting, and that's what our commission was told.
And that was the
surprised not to see-
intention, but a lot of the information that we had put together, for tonight, after we listened to MDC, we felt was not adequate. We need to get more information as far as rates is concerned. Base rates, user rates, meter rates, ad valorem, the possibility of ad valorem tax. There's quite a bit to rates that we have learned, and I think that we need to put together and present to the selectmen.
Do we have a tentative?
I would hope next time.
I know water and sewer, we've been talking about it every month.
Right.
And even our subcommittee, Ryan and Carl's been in with us
I agree.
a couple of times in the last year or so. It doesn't seem like we're moving our discussion along too fast. So that's why I was looking forward to it, because I thought this was really, here was our first opportunity to hear something, and now we're not hearing it.
Well,
So I'm
that's what I
disappointed.
have. That's what I have.
Thank you.
Kai,
You're welcome.
can I ask one
Sure.
question? So is there any, I know you guys don't want to talk about water sewer rates, but is there anything, when you set those rates, built in for water line replacements and sewer line
That's
replacements?
that's
stuff
part of the
that
discussion
Rick
of
was talking
rates.
about in terms of
That,
why you
that's,
want steep money
that's,
instead?
well, that's part of the discussion, and that does need to be addressed. As far as many other municipalities, including the MDC, the expansion and/or repair of water mains is not borne by the water users alone. It's borne often by the entire community. And we've never done that. And I don't know that we will do it, but I think it's something that deserves discussion, this board. Because what's happening is you make the user rate so high to pay for improvements and to pay for expansion. You price yourself, you can be at a rate that is really non-sustainable. So it's very important for us to look at how this water system is structured and how a small water system meets the requirements of modern-day health department and DEEP regulations is extremely challenging. And that's why we're talking to a bigger entity, which is MDC, and other opportunities that might be there, because the economies of scale are very challenging in a small water system. Yes.
I was gonna say water and sewer commissioner. Is our understanding that we're not even getting enough revenue to pay our operators? Is that correct? I thought that's what this whole thing purpose was.
If it's including the debt service, if you include the entire budget, yes. User fees do not meet all of the costs. If you're looking at operating costs, I'm not sure. Because when you talk about water rates, you're talking not just about water operations, but you're also talking about improvements and paying for improvements that have already been made, as well as just general upkeep.
But our concern is we're not even meeting our current day obligations. That's why I thought the discussion.
Of course, you're right.
Susan, when we
Yes.
talk, when we have our financial meeting every month, and Tom comes and we go over the reports, can we set aside time to specifically review the actual numbers for
Mhm.
what is coming in and what is going out?
Yes, and we have some of that prepared.
Okay,
that we will
I
look
think
at.
that would be helpful for us to see, you know, exactly what the numbers are and how bad it is, or, well, it's probably bad, so. I'm not
Well,
gonna say
it's sobering, because the costs are very, very high, and, you know, as a water and sewer user, I know, because I pay the rates, just like the other water and sewer users do. And how we manage the system, you can't, is my opinion, can't outprice yourself. You have to be very cognizant of your users and how they can afford to pay the rates.
Yeah, there was one telling, at that presentation, that one telling statistic to me was reminding us how with our conservation efforts, our usage goes down, and of course, as our usage goes down, our income goes down. It's like, so if it goes down 15%, it's your 15% less, so it's kind of
My bill went
a
up.
spiral.
Start watering your lawns.
Yeah. But are we going to shoot for maybe a January public hearing, or December, or do we gonna get that?
We
Gonna
can,
wait?
I think that we should establish that at the financial meeting in November, which would be November 5.
I mean, the public hearing part of it?
The
I'm
public
saying-
hearing will not be November 5, but you can establish the date at that time.
Set a date
Yeah,
for
I
later.
agree,
Yeah,
Fred,
okay.
yeah. Okay, anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second by Fred. And it is 9:25, thank you.